Welcome back to Real Estate Team Builders. My name is Lars Hedenborg, the founder of Real Estate B School, and I want to dive into a topic today that's gonna rub some of you the wrong way, and it's this concept of time. And so, how is it that some folks can, we're all given the same amount of hours in a week, and how can some people sort of do a certain level of success, either monetarily or impact in the world, and others are struggling, and I mean struggling to get by. In the real estate industry, I think we are set up for failure in that there's way too many of us, and so there's this level of having to put in a lot of hours to make really good money in real estate, and that's like as far as the traditional agent goes. Real Estate B School, we teach a very different model. We teach folks how to sell a ton of homes and not give their life away in the process, and to do it in a way where your stress level comes down from a 9, 10 all the time down to a 4 or 5, so that you can have impact in the areas of life that matter. The thing I want to dive deep on today's episode is, let's just get real about how to utilize our time in a way where we can achieve at a high level in all the areas of life that matter, business and making money included. And probably for most of you, it's like the first and foremost, either thing that stresses you out the most or thing that you're striving for the most. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I've for sure done it. And there are more things more important than money, but let's focus on that. And I'll focus on some other things as well, and how to sort of balance all of it. So there's a few concepts that I want to go through today, and then I'm going to give you a challenge, and I'm going to allow you to email me for a tool that we use, which is called a time study, that will absolutely change your life if you email me and you get a copy of this tool. And so the first thing I want to talk about is, and this is what I love about business, is that I have the same amount of hours that you do. And I have the same amount of hours that like Tony Robbins does, or Richard Branson does, or pick somebody that you may that it may inspire you, right? So how is it that, some of us can apply ourselves in a certain number of hours a week and maybe succeed in business, succeed financially, but then also maybe as a dad, as a husband, with our physical bodies? How is it where some of us struggle to succeed and others have success in those areas? It comes down to the choices we make with our time. And I think so few of us actually are willing to slow down and look at where you're spending your time. And so there's a saying I belong to a group called C12. It's a Christian business owners organization. And kind of the guiding principle of this group is priorities are what we do. Everything else is just talk. And this really hit home for me recently. And I'll give you an example. I found myself in this vicious cycle of some stressful things happening, mostly on the personal side with our kids. We just have some challenging things going on right now. And those challenging things sort of got in the way of me and my wife, Julie. And there was some disconnect there. And then that got us both eating unhealthy, and because we stress eat, and then we want to sort of zone out at the end of the day. So we were just watching a lot of TV. And so I have been there, and this is like super recent, like this is in the last 2 or 3 months. And so if you were to look at my calendar, what I did for that, let's just pick 2 weeks probably for 4 or 5 months, we fell into this rut where if you go back to that priorities are what we do, everything else is just talk. And you were to just watch me for a 2-week period, you would say, well, his priorities are, snacking in front of the TV, and he's doing it 2 to 3 hours, 5 days a week, and even more on the weekends. I just fell into a rut. And you would say his wife is not a priority, right? He's zoning out in front of the TV, or maybe he's working a little bit more than he should. I tend to focus on things I can control, and I love business. And so I'll put more hours into that versus, connecting with my wife and just being there for her, or digging into my kids, which is the the crux of our challenges right now are with our 11 and 13-year-old, and just having to really be available and be present and figure some stuff out and be with them and help them navigate some very interesting dynamics that are going on with them, and just a whole bunch of stuff. And if you have like teenagers or, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th graders, you probably know what I'm talking about. And so if you were to look at me for a 2-week period, you would just be confused. Like, how, one thing you would say, how is Lars training and coaching people to higher levels when he's struggling? We all struggle. So I would say if you're at a point where you're struggling and you're in a sort of a vicious cycle versus a more virtuous cycle, to me, a virtuous cycle sort of brings us up and we could achieve at a higher level. A vicious cycle kind of brings us down into like almost a toilet bowl, right? And a virtuous cycle kind of brings us up into the heavens. That's kind of how I view it. And so I just fall into a rut where one thing sort of is a domino for another thing, is a domino for another thing. And I had to step back, and I do this every quarter. So maybe this rut didn't last more than a quarter and a half. I do this every quarter where I just take a step back and I look at, and I'm honest about where I'm spending my time and the impact it's having on the areas of life that I have already stated and written down in my life plan are important to me. I've got 12 areas of my life that are important to me, and they're all written down, and the vision for these areas of my life. And so how do I sort of get off track? The thing that brings me back, the thing that gets me off track is that, you know, one thing is stressful and it leads to another vice over here, and then ignoring somebody or not taking someone for granted, your wife or your spouse, ignoring your kids because that's the hard thing, and then probably putting too much time into work, or, you know, maybe being cranky at work and then treating your team members poorly. So all of these things that have collateral, sort of, they're all kind of webbed together, if that makes sense. And so how are you to break this cycle? Two things I want you to do. One is on a weekly basis to take a clarity break. It's a 60 to 90 minute, none of this technology, right? You're just going to be with yourself. You're going to write down each area of your life and just journal what's working and what's not working. Literally, marriage to Julie, what's working, what's not working. Father, you know, role of father, what's working and what's not working. Business, what's working and what's not working. Financial, physical body, emotional, you know, my walk with God, what's working and what's not working. That's happening on a weekly basis. That will change everything for you. So make that happen. Stop, maybe pause this right now and put that into your calendar. Clarity break. Do not miss it. No technology, probably in a coffee shop. Get away where you're going to be focused and away from everything. The second thing is that we have to face the facts. We have to face the facts about where we're spending our time. If you want to make, let's say you want to make a 7-figure income. So you want to take home $1 million and you want to work 40-hour work weeks consistently. So let's do the math on that, right? I'm sure most of you want to make $1 million. Oop, that was 10 million. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 divided by, I mean, I know the math. I don't know why it's $500 per hour, but if you're watching the video, it's $500 per hour. So let's say you want to make, let's back it down. This was my first number. When I was early in my real estate journey, I decided I wanted to make 500,000 and work a 40-hour work week, which is 2,000 hours a year. 500,000 divided by 2,000 was $250 per hour. Then I was willing to be really intentional about where I spent my time. And so now on a quarterly basis, I do, not every quarter, but if you've never done it, I really encourage you to do it every quarter. I do a time study where I'm literally writing down every 15 minutes what I'm focusing on and what I'm doing. And then I'm bucketing those on a daily basis. How much of it is business administrative or personal administrative, and how much of that can I delegate so that I can elevate my dollar per hour? That facing of the facts and being willing to do that, most of you will hear this and you won't reach out to me. That is the challenge, but also the reality. Like most of you don't really want to know the truth about where you're spending your time. But that's the thing, that unwillingness to actually face the reality, face the facts about where you're spending your time. That's the one thing that unlocks everything. Because then you do this once a quarter where you do a time study leading up to the end of a quarter. You have the whole next quarter to delegate some of those admin tasks off your plate. We have a separate process that I'll probably go through on a future podcast episode here called passion versus pay and delegate to elevate. I'm going to go through those. Those are going to be really valuable. And I'm going to give a lot of giveaways here. So the easiest way for you to reach out to me directly to get this specific tool, the time study, I will email you a time study. Then the only thing is I think you got to do it and share it back with me. I think that's the challenge, is that you need accountability to actually get it done and to share it with somebody. Just email me at lars@realestatebschool.com. It's my personal email. I check it myself. There's no, I'm not setting up a tripwire to kind of get you to come into my world. It's literally, I just want to give you this gift of being honest with yourself about where you're spending your time. Because once you face that reality, you can get to work on changing your future. Going back to the dollar per hour, you can easily, most of you are just finishing your taxes recently here, about a month ago for last year. So you can take your adjusted gross income from your federal return and divide it by the total hours that you worked in 2020. So if you took home 200,000 and you worked 80-hour work weeks, that's 4,000 hours a year. 200,000 divided by 4,000 is $50 per hour. Usually agents are making somewhere between $30 and $60 per hour. And you have the potential to make one year I made $2,800 per hour. So you really have the potential as you navigate the different stages of growth to be able to do that. And I'll end with that. So that's the challenge. Email me at lars@realestatebschool. I'll send you a copy of the time study. And it allows you just to be honest with yourself about where you're spending your time. I want to help you make more money. I want to help you have more freedom. But the real thing that I want is that I want you to do those two things so that you can have more impact in your family, in your community, potentially in the world. If there's ever been a time where we need more leaders to step up and have more impact outside of their little world, family, great. Community, great. World, awesome, right? The world needs us to step up. So that's my real motivation, is to help you figure out the money, help you figure out the freedom so that you can have this massive impact in your family and your community and the world. So the other giveaway here is that if you want to navigate these different stages of growth, you'll hear me talk a lot about, 0 to 500 is start and ramp. Those are two stages of growth. From 500 to 1.5 million of GCI, that's build and lead. That's stages 3 and 4. Stages 5 and 6 are exit and own. That will take you from 1.5 million to 3 million plus in GCI. All the strategic questions you need to ask yourself, the exact tools and systems you need to work on, how many hours you'll be working, the take-home pay you'll be making, the team structure, how you'll be feeling as you're going through it. All of that is included. If you go to realestatebussinessgrowth.com, you can grab a free report that I put together, and it's just straight give. It's the Real Estate Business Growth Navigator. So go to realestatebussinessgrowth.com, and I'm going to make sure you come back and tune in. I'm probably going to run another 3 or 4 episodes along this theme of tools to help you make more money in less time. So stay tuned for those and go to realestatebussinessgrowth.com. We'll see you over there. Be good.